it's the Mighty Marvel Show, and I'm Paul, and in this episode, we are talking Civil War. We have a showdown between the comic books and the MCU. I've picked 5 of my favourite MCU character figures and 5 of my favourite comic book figures, and I'm going to do a compare and contrast and pick my favourites. Now, I've been collecting Marvel Legends for many years. I have quite a few. I'm not the biggest collector as much as I absolutely love the MCU, and I think it's been an incredible franchise, and I'm so blessed to have been alive at a time when it's been happening in front of our very eyes. But I'm a massive fan of the movies, but I'm not the biggest collector of the MCU figures. I am a proper old school comic book nerd, so I tend to always deviate towards the comic book versions of these characters. But there have been some excellent Marvel Legends figures, and here is my showdown, as you can see, for this episode. I am comparing and contrasting Captain America versus Doctor Strange versus War Machine versus the White Vision versus the Scarlet Witch. And I'm going to be taking a look in detail at these 5, giving a score, and let's see who comes out on top. Will it be the MCU figure? And will it be the comic book figure? My criteria are going to be the look of the figure, how each one makes me feel, why I picked this version, who's got the best accessories, you know, all the sort of things you would do when you're lining them up and picking why these are your favourites. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to be lining these bad boys and bad girls up against each other. Let's get started. Okay, we have Captain America from Avengers Endgame and the original Avengers 2012 movie. And we have him up against, of course, Captain America, the Marvel Legends 20th anniversary reissue of the Series 1 Captain America. Here he is in all his awesome World War II glory with those shoulder straps harness, the incredible sculpt on the face, displayed hands display, the bright red boots and the chainmail scaled armor. And on the other side we have the closest comic book Captain America that we had in the MCU. The more recent movie editions of Steve Rogers' version have been more sort of military, more tactical, more battle. This is from the Battle of New York, and then was seen again in Avengers Endgame when they went back to get the Mind Stone and the Time Stone and the Space Stone during the Endgame movie. So the Captain America costume here is the closest I think we've had to a comic book version. I really like this version. I know it's not everyone's favourite suit, but I really like this version. I say it is the closest to the comic book one, and as a comic book fan, that's why I would say that. I do like the style of it. The helmet I'm not massively keen on because the wings look a bit weird on the side. That said, any dude walking around with wings on the side of his head is always a bit odd anyway, but I'm talking about comic book version, and as you can see, this Captain America coming around there, that comic book version is an awesome sculpt. In terms of the figures themselves, now the Endgame figure, we'll see the MCU Captain America figure, it doesn't pose the best. It's not the most sort of stretchable, movable, flexible. It's okay, but it's not brilliant. The shield is fantastic. That is an awesome shield, and the straps on the back are brilliant. It has a really lifelike effect to it, and that is obviously what these Marvel Legends figures are trying to achieve by being movie accurate and actually having to look like a person. So there's obviously a difference in the molds of the bodies on them. So I really like it, but let's be serious. This Series 1 Captain America is without doubt the finest Captain America figure I think we've ever had. It is just a beautiful figure. It just smacks comic book right at you. It almost reaches out a page and punches you repeatedly in the face. And then just for good measure, it smashes its shield at you and says, I'm the best Marvel Legends figure you could get. So I think this is quite an easy contest to call. I do like the MCU version, but seriously, this comic book Captain America is the Captain America to end all Captain Americas. And that, my friend, is a clear win for comic books. So another character we saw quite early in the MCU is War Machine from Iron Man 2. And this is an amazing Marvel Legends figure. And there it is in all its grey and silver and black glory. James Rhodes in his War Machine armor from the movie, and of course up against it the awesome deluxe version Warmonger from the comic book series. It's just a staggering figure. Now, gotta say, I am a massive fan of the way Marvel Legends do the MCU armor figures. I think they're great. The detail is amazing. This sculpt for War Machine is incredible. I absolutely love it. It is one of my favorite Marvel Legends figures. I think it's fantastically detailed. Really a lot of thought has gone into it. You can really see all the intricacies of what a real actual working armor would look like. Now, looking at the comic book version here, you know you're going to see the differences because you're getting a comic book version. You know, the arms and the leg pieces, they would never move like that. They were meant to look like sleek. They're, you know, the hand-drawn versions from the comic books. So there's a totally different mindset in terms of how the armors were portrayed in the comics against how they're portrayed in the movies. But this comic book Iron Man War Machine armor is incredible. I think it's just one of the greatest Marvel Legends figures. I absolutely love it. It's so retro, it's so funky. But I am really torn on this one. I really do like that MCU War Machine version, and it's a really tough one to call between these two. I'm weighing it up. I'm looking at them. I mean, the accessories on the War Machine comic book version on its own would be enough to tip the balance. So if I was throwing in all the accessories, that would win hands down. But I'm really undecided. This War Machine is actually, funny enough, one of the first Marvel Legends figures that I actually picked up many years ago. So I do have a bit of a soft spot for it. So I'm so torn here. I can't call it. I'm calling it a tie. If this is a tie, I cannot decide who wins this showdown between the War Machines. So War Machine versus War Machine, it's a tie. Time for the emotionless synthezoid, the White Vision. Now, this is a fascinating one for me because the White Vision was a really intriguing story arc done by John Byrne back in the mid-80s in the West Coast Avengers run, where he really stripped back the Vision to that cold, emotionless synthezoid, you know, an android as he would have been. And you get this awesome Marvel Legends figures here, was released in the last couple of years, which is fantastic. I love this mold. It looks great. It's absolutely straight out the comic book pages. I think it's a really cool figure. But have to say, I was massively pleasantly surprised by this White Vision from the WandaVision series, which we saw, the first Disney Plus series from the MCU that we got. And I think this is a really great figure. I'm particularly impressed with the cape on this figure, which has got that clear look to it. Yeah, it really suits in the Vision's look. Again, the detail on these sort of robotic characters. Obviously, the MCU is going for a lot more realism than the comic book design, and they are almost trying to recreate that in the Marvel Legends in terms of the accuracy that you see on the screen. The detail on this White Vision is fantastic from the MCU version. Love the head sculpt. I love the vibrant blue in the Mind Stone place in the middle of the forehead there, and I think it is a really cool figure. I think the cape on the MCU Vision is much better than the comic book version. I could have really done with maybe a bit more of a soft good, something that they've not been very good at over the years, Hasbro, with these Marvel Legends figures, and a bit more of a sort of flappier cape to this figure would have been good. So I surprised myself actually, because when in first setting this up and looking at these figures, I thought the comic book Vision would be a clear winner for me. But I've got to tell you, it's not. Now I'm doing a compare and contrast next to each other. It's MCU Vision for me, and that is a win for the MCU. Okay, which witch is the best witch? Okay, we have Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch. Now, these are two very cool figures. The MCU version, obviously from WandaVision, in which she became the true Scarlet Witch with all her chaos magic at the end of that series, and the incredibly accurate, very sultry Scarlet Witch from the comic books with those pink leggings and the bright scarlet costume. I really like both these figures. I love the head mold here. I think the sculpt for Elizabeth Olsen as a Scarlet Witch is one of the better ones in the MCU. Not keen on the arms on these figures because you've got those annoying single elbows and they really don't move that great, but I do like the mold, I do like the sculpt. The actual costume itself is fantastic. This comic book Scarlet Witch, however, is excellent, right down to those brilliant heels. She poses really well. I think the hair mold is fantastic, and it really looks like the Scarlet Witch from the comics. That cape is incredible at the back, the detail in it and the way you have the folds in the cape is great. So this is a really close one, because I absolutely love this Scarlet Witch from the MCU, and I'm a massive Elizabeth Olsen fan because I think she's lovely. However, on this occasion, it's a win for the comic books. Comic book Scarlet Witch, you are the witch we like the best. And now possibly my toughest clash of all. Two of my absolute favourite figures from one of my favourite comic book characters. We have got Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange. Now, the MCU version, I've chosen the new Multiverse of Madness figure because I think the tunic on this one is incredible, and it's probably the closest in terms of being against the comic book Doctor Strange, because you have that real clear seal of Vishanti on his chest that you can see there, and it looks really cool and quite more well defined on this version than any of the previous ones. So it's really cool. The mold of Benedict Cumberbatch is great. I like the cape, I like the style of the cape and the flow of the cape, but it doesn't sit that great on the shoulders. Could have done with being a bit more softer to be able to mold that. However, it is up against what for me is the dream figure, the figure I was after for all my time as a Marvel Legends collector, the classic comic book Doctor Strange. So the amount of accessories these two both come with is fantastic. You have hands with teleportation shields, with magic shields on them. You have the axe of Angaramas. You have the wand of Watum. You have the blue head Doctor Strange with this one. You have the second head with that cool 1970s porn star look about him. It's just an incredible figure. So this one, as much as I love this MCU version, it's no contest for me. Classic Strange wins, and it is a win for the comic books. Okay, there you have it, my friends. You have a comic book win for Captain America, for Doctor Strange and the Scarlet Witch. You have an MCU win for the Vision, and you have a tie between the War Machines. So it is a 3-1 victory for the comic book characters. It was actually closer than I thought, because I really couldn't choose between the two War Machines, and the Vision was a real surprise to me. But these are an incredible bunch of figures. I'm very pleased with all of them, to be honest. But this time, Civil War goes to the comic books. And there you go, my friends. That is it. Do all the normal, like, subscribe, share, leave your comments. Who's your favourites? What's your best collections? MCU versus comic books. Let me know. Check out my other videos. See you again soon. Bye for now.